Okay, so let's continue with our next chapter. Scales. So now we have all those intervals. So what can we do with those intervals? So after time, like all the historically musicians and composers, they put those intervals in a certain shape of one after the other, and it's just a made-up human concept, So a scale, it's just saying we are using those 7 intervals in our scale and not more and not less, because they are working together in the best way possible. And this was developed over the last 100, if not 1,000 years. Okay, so we can profit from that knowledge and use scales to help us make music much easier. Within the new Ableton, we have a pretty nice function, which is a scale function, and you can find it in the Create a MIDI clip in the piano roll. Here on the left side, you have this drop-down menu called Scale, and you just enable it by clicking on it. And now you can see the root note right on the right side beneath it. And if you click the drop-down menu, now you can choose your root note on that your scale will be starting on, okay? So before we make any composition, we will just have to say, okay, now we'll stick to this one scale as like a basic, foundation. Okay, we can go out of that scale later on with 1 or 2 chords, but we'll come back to that foundation. Okay, so this is something that really does not matter too much which root note you pick for your scale, but for the sake of simplicity, we'll just stick to the C major scale, which is a scale that only consists of the white notes on your keyboard. Okay, so this is because that's pretty easy, because we don't have to combine black and white keys together. We can just stick to the white ones. So now we've selected C, and now you can click this drop-down menu, and now you get a lot of more or less crazy scales here, and you can play around with those. But if I click on the major, you already see that it was this blue highlighting here. So I'll just quickly change this to red, so it's a little bit clearer. Okay, so all the red notes make up our major scale, okay, our C major scale. So if we click in our first note, C, and now we will just continue, duplicate the notes with Command and D, and just put them on the red lines and not the white ones between them, right? And now we're in the octave again. So let's have a listen to this. Just loop this real quick. You can just click a MIDI clip and hit Command and L, and it will loop it for you. All right, so we'll just decrease the tempo here. Oh, I'm sorry, this one is wrong. Like this. Right, so this is our basic C major scale. And why is it called C major scale? Because if we take our first note, which is our C, now we have the C. And why is it major? Because we have our major third interval, which we were talking about in the interval section, and we have our 5th interval here. So those 3 intervals in total, those 3 notes, those 2 intervals, they make up the C major chord. And because we're starting on our C major, it's just defined as a C major scale and chord, okay? Let's have a listen to this C major chord again. In a higher octave. All right, so, and I will just show you the difference between a C major chord sound-wise and the C minor chord. So the important thing about a major and minor chord is the third. So you have your root note of your chord, you have your C, you have your foundation. And you go up either a major or a minor third. In this case, we're in C major, we have our C major third, our 5th, which is just completing the chord. And now we can transpose this major third to a minor third. And now listen to the sound. I will just transpose it and you will listen to it. Now we have this more sad sound, right? So this is just the basic explaining and the difference between minor and major of a chord of choice, okay? Alright, so now we know that we have all those different notes highlighted in red here, and those make up the C major scale. Okay, so why are those notes making up the C major scale? First of all, we have our C, E, and G, and the E is the major third of the C, and therefore it's a major scale. But why is it the E and the F? So why are there those other notes? And this is just, I mean, it's just a word, you know, it's just a major, it's just a word for the scale, okay? So in a major scale, and we will have a PDF for this as well, you will always have the same combination between whole steps and half steps, okay? So if we have a closer look at our scale here, and now we go up a whole step. Now we go up a whole step. And here down on the left, you can see we are still in our red area, so we're right. So we have a major scale consists of a whole step, half step, dissonant interval, whole step, half step. Okay, so this is like the basic formula for a major scale. Okay, so in the end, a scale is just a mixture out of half tone steps and whole tone steps, okay? So now you can start and build a major scale on whatever key you want. You know, you can go to G, you can say, okay, per definition, a major scale is a whole tone, another whole tone, a half tone, a whole tone, a whole tone, a whole tone, a half tone. So now you have built a G major scale. We can compose everything we want on our C major chord. Okay, another thing I would like to add to this scale explanation part is, now you can imagine, like, if we take those notes from our C major scale, right? And now we just like alternate one of those notes. We can already create a different scale out of that, you know? So you can make up your own scales as well. So now you can take this note and not use it anymore, but use this note. So now we have a completely different scale. I will play it for you. Okay. Alright, one last thing I would like to add is just a term we use in music, which is diatonic. And diatonic means in the tonality that we are in. So if I'm talking in the future about a diatonic chord, it means a chord that is in the harmonic foundation, the harmonic space that we're currently in. Okay, so a diatonic chord would be, of course, C major, if we're in C major, because it hits all of those red lines, yeah? A diatonic chord would also be our D minor, which is the next chord in our C major scale, just one whole step up. So all of those chords, they are called diatonic, just per definition. The major, minor, harmonic minor, melodic minor, maybe Dorian, those are the scales we will use mostly in melodic house production, and this is why I would like to end this little chapter about scales at this point and continue.